Yep.
Live. All right, folks, we are live for another episode of Remodelers on the Rise. Now, Jared, if you've as you've gotten to know me just through a call that we had a few months ago and this last 10 minutes, you may gather that I'm not super scripted and I might go off script. Is that something you figured out already?
That's great. I'm the same way.
Okay,
So
good. So we're going to talk today about have you ever thought about changing your business name, changing your logo? We're going to talk to Jared about that. But before we go there, I said, so Jared, you kind of know what the show's about. Have you watched it live before, et cetera? And what'd you say?
I said I'm time broke. I don't take much time outside of just working in the business and then being home with the kids. And so I
Yes.
haven't seen it, unfortunately. I feel embarrassed for not.
You say you're embarrassed, and that's why I wanted to bring it up because I don't care who's
Yeah.
listening to this. We all need to be reminded that there's only so many things that we can do in a given day, in a given week. And I told Jared, I said, so you just told me that when you get home, instead of catching up on podcasts, instead of this, you got two little ones,
Yeah, right. 2-year-old and 4-year-old.
2-year-old and 4-year-old, and he goes into dad mode. He said they're kind of screaming. They stop screaming after as they get older, so don't worry about that.
But you don't, right?
Correct. Yeah, take a deep breath. But what he said was, I'm focused on that, and that's just a reminder to all of us. Where are we kind of out of balance? Are we spending too much time on social media and not enough time connecting with our kids? How's your marriage going? Have you put some focused energy towards that? If you're not married and don't have kids, what about important relationships that you have? When was the last time you texted that friend you haven't talked to in a while? So just as we're starting here, of course, we're going to talk about branding and a logo change. But based on what we talked about before we clicked the old live button, I wanted that to be a reminder for all of us. So pause if you're listening to this. If you're listening to the podcast, especially, pause it. Think about who you need to reach out to, or think about what you need to put some more effort into this week. A lot of times it's the most important things, and find that one thing and do something about it. How's that, Jared? Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah. Yeah. Text your mother and your dad and those who you love and let them know that you love them, because you never know when your last day is going to be or their last day is going to be. So
Bam. There we go. Okay, well, with that, let's bring it down from emotional stuff to just straight up business stuff. So Jared and I, besides being two handsome, good looking fellas, we both also have. Would you agree with that? I would agree with that. We both also have gone through a recent branding and name change. So I chatted with Jared back in the fall, and then I got an email from him. He announced a name tweak and change and a brand new logo and brand and rolled that out. And I said, that would make a great Remodelers on the Rise show. A lot of people think about name changes, think about, boy, my logo looks dated and just doesn't represent who we are well. So that's what we're going to dig into, is the strategy behind that, how Jared kind of went through that process here over the last few months. I'll kind of interject my 2 cents because I went through something similar. And hopefully the folks listening to this, it'll either give you some confidence or clarity about this topic, because it might be something that you're considering doing this year or in future years. So Jared, before we go down there, can you just introduce yourself, kind of where you're from, a little bit of perspective on what your business looks like, and let the people know?
yeah. Obviously, my name is Jared Thayer. I'm based out of Corvallis, Oregon. We do design build home remodeling. I've been doing this it'll be 8 years here in May. 32 years old, so I started when I was 25. Revenue wise, we beat the million mark this last year, and I guess in terms of what we're wanting to do is to just try to go as far as we can over the next 30 years until about 65.
And then what's going to happen?
Well, then I'll probably continue working in some capacity, because it's, passion and fulfillment and purpose. Sorry. But then, hopefully either my children take it over or we do an ESOP and the people on our team own the business.
Bam. So what you're already hearing, people, is Jared's a thinker. Jared's a strategist. He's already thinking a couple steps ahead, 2 steps ahead. And one other thing that we talked about related to what you just mentioned is, sometimes we need to be micro fast, micro speed, be fast on the day to day, but on the macro, on the big picture, be patient. It takes a long time to build a successful business. Micro speed, macro patience. And when you just put it in perspective like that, you got 30 years to continue to brick by brick build this thing into something that you're really proud of and that produces. So walk us back to, and I'll kind of share a couple things related to logos. So this was a logo, and then this was a logo, and I won't unveil the new logo yet, but you had this logo, and you may have been kind of thinking through. Talk about kind of your thought process on the new name and the new brand. Kind of what prompted the change? What made you want to take this on?
Yeah, sure. There's actually even one logo before then that I used for a business card. It was like a wrench in the shape of a
Oh
house. It was
yeah,
horrible.
good place to start.
But why did I want to change? Well, there's a lot of things that went into it. Like it's for me, I always want to continue improving what I'm doing and not just stay stagnant with one thing. Thayer Construction. If you ever typed that out in an email address or spelled it out, number one, I have a last name that you always have to spell for people over the phone,
Yep.
so that's kind of annoying. And then you have to spell CONSTRUCTIONLC.com at the end of every single email address. So that always drove me crazy, and I knew I wanted to shorten that. Their construction versus design build. Design build is how we approach remodeling. It helps differentiate ourselves from a general contractor who does just general construction work, and it kind of brings us more into the professional realm. So there's a positioning standpoint there. And initially we wanted to just update the website because there's some things that I didn't like, but it's like, well, if you're going to do the website, you might as well be doing the brand at the same time. And so it was just time.
Gotcha.
I think actually I was told by some of my peers that I still was not a grade contractor, and instead of getting offended by that and saying, well, no, it's not true, of course I'm an A grade, it's just recognizing, yeah, maybe I'm at like C right now, and what is it going to take for us to increase our positioning to be an A grade contractor? Not that we're there yet, but the RIM is part of that.
So what I'm hearing that is one, which I think a lot of people run into, is they were kind of haphazard when they named their business / their business continues to ebb and flow. Thayer Construction made sense. You probably started out doing more construction work, smaller work. As you've developed into design build, you want the name to be a little bit more harmonious. Very similar to what I kind of did back in the fall. Is my business started with Remodel Your Marketing, and that's just a small part of what I do. And, it almost confused people more than it gave them clarity on what I do. So the name, that's part of it. But then what about just the overall look of your old logos? And I'll pull up one. Don't cringe or anything. It's fine. This is kind of the look of your old one. Actually, so for people, like when we look at this, I'll comment on this one, and then I'm going to have you comment on the other one. When we look at this, it looks amateur, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like this one's so funny. I went on some website online, and you pay like $50 for a logo, but everybody who saw this always said, "Oh, wow, that looks like Allstate's logo."
Interesting.
Right.
Right. So, so you look at a logo like this, and I think this is where people need to consider, what is the impression that your logo and your branding is giving to people. So we have that. You had a nice upgrade to this. This looks a lot more modern, a lot more sleek. The colors are thoughtful. It kind of feels organy. And so when you did this was a few years ago.
Yeah, so that was probably about 4 years ago, and that was done by my assistant, who believed that she did really good graphic design work. And I try to not micromanage people too much. There were some things that I did not appreciate in it, but I kind of got some pushback from her of saying, like, look, this is, this is what it is. So I said, fine, we'll just go with it. But there's some problems with just the structure of it, right? Like the points of the roof are really difficult for printing. And it's just not like really strong, bold lines. Along with that,
we have 3 different colors.
Right, 3 colors. It's not self-containing, as in there's no if you were to put this over the top of a really busy background image, it wouldn't stand out easily versus our current logo, the new one that we just chose. Like you can put that over a lot of things and you're still going to be able to clearly see what it is without there being too much visual noise.
Yeah. So what I wanted to kind of show there is, I want people that are watching this to kind of take a fresh look at their logo. Is it really representing the quality and the type of company you are? Not that we're saying, or you're saying, or I'm saying that the logo is the be all end all. This is the most important thing of your marketing and of your business. No, but everything in your branding is either supporting, neutral, or disrupting your overall business and your overall brand. And you would say, when you look at this, that's disrupting. We're a professional, polished company. That is disrupting. This you could say, it's not hurting, it's not helping. There's pros and cons. And then you developed this. Now this is transparent, so I might, but there's the new logo. I'll show that. I'll show the new website here in a second. But why don't you walk us through, how did you kind of develop the new logo? You went with new colors. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So backing up before this, like even during the picking out of the name, I've received what I'd consider to be like mediocre advice from somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, right? It was my aunt. She said, look, everybody names their company after their last name. So you should really do Thayer Construction. So fine, I took that advice. And then same with this old logo, like fine, I'll do this old logo. It's okay. But with this logo, this time we hired a professional agency, which is much more expensive. And what I wanted a consistent brand, and I wanted to kind of go like the same route that our clients choose when working with us, which is to hire a professional and to take their advice. And so, yeah, that's how we went with it. I went out and I found a company that does both what they call brand architecture and websites. And so we've hired them to do both of those. The website's in process, and they have a process that they took us through when selecting this logo.
Gotcha. And if people wanted to go to your website just to see the new logo, they might be, listening to the podcast. What's the best URL to send them to?
Yeah, ThayerDB.com, or you can go to ThayerDesignBuild.com. Either one.
It's THAYER.
Right. Yeah. And even then, it's all in process and it's never perfect, right? So right now, technically our company's hosted at ThayerConstructionLLC.com still, and we're in process of transferring this website over to ThayerDB.com, but it's not like a simple thing. And we got to get this web person lined up along with my assistant, and they got to make this thing happen. Right. I don't know how it works.
Right. We got search engine optimization to deal with. We've got all of our listings out there. Let's not kid ourselves. Changing your business name, changing your logo is a pain in the butt. Do you actually go out and get all brand new signs? Do I go and letter all of my vehicles, or do I do that in steps? How much is this really going to cost? Because it costs a lot more than just going out there and getting a new logo designed. Yet, a lot of times it makes a whole lot of sense to do it. The feel that your brand gives off is important as we're trying to generate ideal projects and ideal clients. So talking about the process, you hired an outside firm. Would you say it was a fairly straightforward, streamlined process? Was it a onerous, I don't like that, let's go back to the drawing board? How did it go?
Yeah, the process went pretty well. If I had done it a second time, I would have been better at it, right? Because there was definitely some approvals that I gave at this point here, and then we got later on in the process, and I saw how this approval came out right here, and it's like, oh well, if I'd known that, I would have changed this. Like there's in it, if there's actually, I should have given it to you beforehand, but they developed a brand guide that's listed online, right? And so you can click on it and you can download all the logos and all this stuff. Probably wouldn't be good for all the viewers to have access to that, but anyway, so in it, there's like some colors. It's like, I would have gotten away from the complementary color of orange and just have these other ones. But overall, it was nice to have people who showed up to a meeting with information, present in a presentable format, and they're looking for your approval and your feedback. And that was nice versus some of the struggles that we've experienced in the past with inconsistency and that
Gotcha.
sort of stuff.
Gotcha. So how do you think the new name, obviously just changing it from construction design build, is a difference, but the new colors, the new look of your logo, what are you kind of anticipating, or what have you already kind of experienced as far as how is it different? How has that helped you in your marketing and branding and sales?
How is it different? I think it's just more professional looking. It's a lot more prominent and easy to read. I think that this is a brand that we can take into that like A grade contractor space and run with. Like, which is funny though, because there's definitely some A grade contractors who they do a fantastic job of the process, but their brand still isn't there. And it's like the brand doesn't make your positioning and who you are as a company. But now we can take this great brand and take it into that space as we continue developing our process excellence.
We have a question from a user. Jim said, how many logo choices did they give you?
Oh, they gave me on the first round, I think they provided me with 8. And I actually did not like this one the most. So the first round, they gave me 8 logos, all in black and white. And so they didn't even go to the colors yet. They said, let's just figure out the logos and then we'll figure out the colors.
Interesting.
And the Thayer Design Build one that we have now, it was like, okay, yeah, I think I like that one, but it's not perfect, right? And the reason why I didn't think that it was perfect is because I really liked what's called an icon word logo, I think it is, where you know you have the icon here and then you have the name right here, and so you can have them both together or you can have one or the other. But that isn't the case with this one, right? It's you either have Thayer Design Build and there's no icon next to it because the icon's built into it. That was something that bothered me, and so I actually told them, look, let's get some more options. And I didn't think the options that they came up with were really that fantastic. That was one of the frustrating parts of the process. I've heard of some other people going about it through different ways, and this is the way that we went.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we're
not everybody can have a fantastic looking logo like this, Jared. All right, it just doesn't work like that. Two things I heard there, and for people listening to the podcast, I have my Remodelers on the Rise hat on. I was just joking. Two things. I'll go to the next question somebody submitted. Keep coming with your questions, but something interesting that I heard there that I think ties in with even just the design and remodeling process. You know, if you present your client with 40 different options for this fixture or this, they can get into selection overload. You know, and then you might not necessarily want to just give them 3. There's a sweet spot of how many different design looks, how many fixtures, how many finishes. Be thoughtful with that when you're presenting that to clients, because you can use your skills to narrow it down, but if you give them too many selections, it can be overwhelming. The other thing that was interesting about what you said was they were leading the design process. Are you leading the design process when you're remodeling a kitchen? What I heard there is, hey, we're not going to worry about colors right now. No. We're not worried about that. We want to get the structure and the look right first. And when you're walking somebody through kitchen design, there's probably similarities where, you know what, let's not worry about that right now. First, we've got to get the layout. We've got to nail that first. Now, why did they say that on the logo side? Because they've done this a time or two. This is not their first rodeo. And they realized, look, step 1, we need to get this down. Then we can go to that. So I thought that's kind of interesting as you were describing the logo process, how there's some lessons we can learn in how we're presenting this and walking our clients through it on the design side. Any comment on that?
Yeah, 100%. That's why we'd hired an agency, somebody, you know, who's a professional, who has a process, because I recognize like that's what I value. You know, I value as a professional with a process. I want to work with somebody who has that too.
Yeah, so. Cool. Somebody asked, did the company that designed your new logo give you feedback as to why they made it the way that it looks?
Yeah, you know, the artist who is doing it talked about the little squiggly in the A. That's to represent a pencil tip. Which is part of the design process, right? In the revisions that we make, and they had some other reasons to it, and I can't exactly, explain them. But I said, yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. Great,
Makes
let's do
sense.
it.
Got it. One thing that's
Yeah,
interesting that even just getting on this call, like I went to get something to drink and I grabbed this cup and I had a
yeah.
different hat on 25 minutes ago than I do now. There's something about when you get your brain, and this is building up, as far as the value I'm putting behind it. For years and years, I didn't put much value behind branding of a business. And then the more I see clients, especially just remodelers who have really embraced it, they're logoed up. They hand out their logos. Everything is harmonious between their job signs and their website and their vehicles. There is value in having a clear, easy to see logo and colors and branding. Like what you were saying, this new logo you have is so much easier to read, and there's just gonna be more people that see your name, see your name, see your
Mhm.
name. So as you're listening to this, folks, how are you doing just with your overall branding? One, does the logo and the look and the feel represent who you are and who you're trying to attract? If not, we got some work to do. Okay, and that's
The
what. Go
launching
ahead.
part was actually a bit of a process too, and a struggle too, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to launch the new website and
Mm,
the logo and the brand at the same time. But to get that website, all the copy written and all the stuff for that is just such a big process that we decided, okay, let's just launch the brand at the top of the year. And it allowed us to be able to update our signage, update our vehicles,
yeah.
and all this other stuff. So like, definitely, you don't have to launch a new website when you launch the brand. Just make your current website consistent with that brand.
Yeah, and you
Worry
and
about
you
the other
updated
website
it
later.
from putting the logo up there, changing the colors, but
Hmm.
you didn't worry about that. And that is a I also like and you might not be able to see it on here, but right there, you got that little pencil tip.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now that I see it, I'm seeing it often. Somebody, I think Jim also said it was very subtle. I missed it, but once I
Hmm.
looked at it, it was sharp. That's something
Right.
you should bring up in the sales process. You might see in our little logo there, the little pencil when we created it, because we're going
Hmm.
to make revisions. This is a process. It has
Right.
a little story attached to it, which is great. Cool. So you rolled it out, and then any kind of response that you've gotten from the email you sent out, or as people have been evaluating, has it been kind of quiet? Has it been people have really appreciated it? What have you felt? What have your or not just clients, but even your employees and trade partners? What kind of feedback
Hmm.
have you gotten?
Yeah, all of our folks in house, we got their feedback as we were going through it, and so they dug it. One of our guys doesn't care for the color red, so he's like, "Look, just don't have any red on my truck. Fine,
Okay.
we can make that work." But the clients, some of them said fantastic. We haven't received any negative feedback on it, but there has been some silence from some clients who I care about their opinion. That I'm like, okay, well, maybe they don't appreciate it so much. Whatever.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. We're just gonna go with
Yeah.
it.
Good.
So.
I had as I was rolling out my logo, some people gave me a little feedback on like, well, the remodeler is a little hard to read. As I was rolling it out, there was a couple clients. I'm like, look, this is like when you and your spouse have named the baby, and you're about to tell me what the baby's name is. Your only
Hmm.
response is, "That's a lovely name."
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
right.
a lovely name. So
Yeah,
sometimes when we got the logo out, it's like, I like it. It looks really good. Okay, thank you.
right,
Yeah,
right.
good.
Yeah.
So what we talked about here, we're gonna go a little finish things off in the next 5-6 minutes with a little rapid fire round on a couple other topics outside of this one that I'd like to ask you about. But my big takeaway from this conversation is, one, to make us all look at the look and the feel of our brand. Is it representing us well? If it's not, what are you going to do about it? And also hopefully unveil a little bit of what's involved in this and some of the strategy that Jared went through. So I think successful on that. Anything else you'd care to add related to the logo and the branding before I rapid fire you?
Yeah, if you don't have the money for an agency, that's fine. You don't have to go that route. The reason why we did that is because you also get a brand guide with it. So we have this guide that we can give to people, and they can see, like, it's a website. Okay, here's all the stuff for them to download. So it makes it easy to communicate with others. So, but you don't have to go that route if you don't have that much money.
Gotcha. How much did it cost, if you don't mind me asking?
It was like $20,000. It was
20 grand.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
A little more than
20K.
your $3.99. Here's a bunch of
Yeah.
logos thing, right?
Yeah, right,
Okay.
right.
All right.
Yeah, but
All
it
right.
wasn't just they
Understood.
did other stuff. There's like, your brand positioning
Yep.
statement and all this other stuff. And so,
Good.
yeah,
We invested
we
in a
definitely like,
professional company.
yeah. And I wanted to go top of the line. Like I was tired and I didn't, if I was going to do this again, which is a lot of work, I don't want to compromise with a B grade company and to like do something that's not all the way up here as far as I can take. Yeah.
I like it.
So,
I like it. All right. So
yeah.
some quick hitters. I asked what else is on your mind, Jared, before we started, and you said videography. Give us your 60 seconds on why videography is on your mind.
Yeah, I have a mentor who highly recommends it. He does it a lot himself in
Oh, we're
his
not. We're
remodeling
not. We're not
company.
just calling him mentor. He's getting famous in the remodelers community. He spells his
Yeah,
first name
yeah,
with
Jeff
one F.
Jeff
Jeff.
Forward.
Jeff
Yeah, he's a
Forward.
rock star. He's
He is a rock
fantastic.
star.
So I
He
work
hosted. I
with
did a
him.
little event back in the fall, and he hosted a little shindig the night before. And I mean, he's all right. His wife is lovely.
I haven't
He's
met
all
her
right.
yet.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Well, I got to meet the better half then. So,
He's nodding his head. If he's
anyways,
listening to this, he's nodding his head.
right. He recommends doing videography. Some other resources that I've studied really recommended doing it. So I'm going all in with videos this year and carrying on. It's going to help to build rapport and be able to communicate a whole lot more. If somebody's if there's something that's gonna stop somebody to make them read an email, or digest an email, it's gonna be a video.
Hmm.
Of all things that people click on, they're gonna click on that little press play button.
Good. I
And
mean,
so,
marketing is getting someone as a need to know, like, and trust you. Know, like, and trust you. And video is an incredible way to do that. And you're getting started with it. It sounds like, and you're diving in. Video lasts years. It can a great video that you create this year is still extremely valuable 3 years down the road. It can show your personality. It can show your attention to
yeah,
detail. What do we sell? What do you sell as a professional design build remodeler? You sell the process, you sell the little things, you sell all the questions and the planning and the preparation you do. And video is a great way to show that off. So I like that you're invested in that. I'm excited to see what you come up with. Another thing that you are excelling at is you don't have 12 reviews. You got stinking 92 reviews, Jared. That's really good. 92 Google reviews. It's good for search engine optimization. It's good for referrals who end up seeing it. It's just good, smart marketing. What's your summary of your strategy on how you have 92 stinking reviews?
yeah. Number one, provide outstanding service and
Ah,
create raving fans. Number one. Okay, then from there, you are just about completed with the project. You check in with the client to make sure, hey, did we provide a 5-star service? Or, are you find out, if I send you this form asking for a review, are you going to give me a 5-star review? Once you get that yes, you've got an email, it's a template. It says, hey, it was spectacular working with you. Click this link to leave us a review. They do that, and just like do that with everybody that you can. We have one person in town that's been nipping at our heels with 5-star reviews. They're, quite a bit more experienced and have more assets and ability than we do. And so I've definitely wanted to hold on to that top
ah.
5-star review
It's almost
spot.
like you're a little competitive, Jared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that we've owned for the last like 4 years. Is we're the highest, and I don't even blast on marketing. It's just something that we own. Is like nobody has more 5-star reviews than us, and I want to hold on to that.
Good. The
So
other thing to keep in mind is, I was scrolling down here and you have your Remodelers Advantage crew here. So, is it okay to have some of our trade partners, some of our business contacts? So Brian
mhm,
Sebring with Sebring Design, he's done some coaching work with me. I know him through, not because he did a project for me, but I know his character and who he is and what his business is. I left him a Google review. It's
mhm,
still solid. Of course we want, if we have 10 reviews, we don't want 10 of them to be from not clients, but to mix
right.
them in is a good best practice. So that's one of the ways that we can get the number of reviews up, is to talk with some of our colleagues and people that we really know, like, and trust already. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. So
Plus,
that
I
was
was running out of clients to give me
yeah,
reviews. And I'm like, man, I got to keep it up.
yeah, yeah. There is that.
So,
Jim wants to know how many are on your crew, field, and office.
yeah. In the office, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 5 here in the office and then 3 out in the field. And so, doing design build, it's really planning intensive. And one of those guys, so I guess technically it's like 4 in the office, 4 out in the field. One of those guys kind of goes back and forth. We're trying to bring him in the office fully once we've got others trained better.
Gotcha. So we're going to wrap up here. So, but the people that have been watching this live, what's your takeaway? If you could share in the comments, what's your takeaway from this? And then another thing that you had mentioned when we were talking about Jeff Forward earlier is that you've kind of reached out to him in the last while in kind of a mentor role, to have him as a mentor. Can you speak to that and kind of value of that, whether it's kind of an outside mentor, an outside coach? What's been your experience with that?
Yeah, so growing up, reading, learning, trying to figure out this whole success thing, I've always heard it's really important to find a mentor, somebody who's, been there, who can help you figure your stuff out. And so in this group that I'm a part of, one of the commitments that I made was that I needed to find a coach. And Jeff just so happened to be facilitating that group. And kind of had some background on the company, and I was like, oh, this guy'd be perfect to because it'd be fulfilling for somebody to be able to help somebody succeed, right? So there's that end of it, and then also he's done an outstanding job with what he's done, and so it's been nice meeting with him once every 3 weeks and virtually, and just kind of talking about the challenges that I'm going through, and well worth it.
Excellent.
But it didn't happen immediately. Like it was like 5-8 years that I knew I needed to find a mentor, and finally when the opportunity presented myself, making sure to go in for the ask.
I think there's so much knowledge out there, right? There's so much information. There's podcast after podcast. There's group after group. And you have to be wise and figure out, and at different times in your business, you need different things. Sometimes a group is perfect. Sometimes one-on-one coaching or a mentorship or whatnot is perfect. Sometimes you're going to implement just by watching some recorded lessons and going through a recorded course. Sometimes you need to do an in-person thing. A lot of people are at IBS this week, getting training and connecting with folks in person. So no matter where you're at on the business side, to seek the knowledge and expertise of others, it just speeds up our learning curve and our ability to implement. And it's kind of lonely when you're all on there on your own. So it's good to have that feedback and support from others. So we do that within Remodelers Community. If you go to remodelerscommunity.com, that's a free Facebook group. And certainly there's a lot of other places to get that help too. Jared, you were generous here today to kind of take some time out and to share with us a little bit of your story, in particular on the logo change. I really appreciate it. It was great. And thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
All right. See you soon. Thanks.
Take care.